Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Prasar Bharati. Coming up in the next hour. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi successfully concludes his visit to Dubai for COP28, proposes hosting 2028 COP Summit in India. India's Purchasing Managers Index for manufacturing rises to 56 in November, up from 55.5 in October. Number indicates robust growth in businesses. North Korea warns US that it would consider any interference with its satellite operations a declaration of war. And in sports, Vaishali Rameshbabu becomes India's 84th grandmaster. She is the third Indian woman to achieve the grandmaster title. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has successfully concluded his visit to Dubai for COP28 summit. Highlighting the key moments, PM shared a video on social media platform X. The video shows the glimpses of his bilateral meetings, interactions with global leader, and his summit speech focusing on contribution of all countries against climate change. On Prime Minister Modi's successful visit to Dubai, Foreign Secretary Vinay Quatra said that PM had the opportunity to discuss ways to promote clean and green growth.
Prime Minister highlighted 6 key points. First, India's ambitious climate action targets and the rapid progress that the country is making in its achievements. 2, priority that India has accorded to and the concrete outcomes that the country has achieved on the climate agenda during India's G20 presidency. 3, need for climate justice. 4, need also to assist the global south in addressing a problem that is not of their making and that they did not contribute to make it. 5, need for a resolute climate action that is decisive, based on unity, more balanced, ambitious, and innovative. And 6, India's readiness to host COP33 in 2028.
And addressing another session, Lead IT 2.0, Prime Minister said that Lead IT initiative was launched in 2019 to boost the innovation and technologies. He said all the countries of Global South should get benefits of this initiative.
2019 में शुरू किया गया लीड आईटी हमारा साझा प्रयास है ताकि इंडस्ट्री ट्रांजिशन को बल मिले, लो कार्बन टेक्नोलॉजी और इनोवेशन को गति मिले और ये जल्द से जल्द और आसानी से ग्लोबल साउथ को भी मिले.
And world leaders participating in the COP28 climate summit in Dubai shared some light moments on social media. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni posted a selfie with her Indian counterpart Narendra Modi on her social media platform on Friday. Replying to a post on X, PM Modi said that meeting friends is always a delight. Meanwhile, climate activists across Europe are calling on leaders meeting at COP28 to agree on firm commitments to cut fossil fuels use. From Berlin, DD India's Trent Murray reports.
Across Germany, the colour orange has become a symbol of protest, synonymous with green causes. Climate activists from the group known as Last Generation creating headlines as they disrupt traffic, vandalise public monuments, and get into heated exchanges with members of the public.
Macht es Ihnen Spaß, uns zu verhindern?
It's leading to a national conversation about whether this type of action is helping or hindering the climate action cause.
I think their actions are highly problematic, as climate protection is the central challenge of this century.
This group must be stopped now. In the end, they want a different society, the end of the market economy, the end of growth.
They are making this a radical, niche issue and causing the centre of society to completely lose its understanding of what climate protection is all about.
Fight for climate justice!
But just a few hundred metres from the German parliament, protesters from the group gathered to coincide with COP28, making no apologies for their acts of civil disobedience.
For me, this little blockades on streets on the rush hour is not a very problem for me, because I drive by bike most of the time to work.
We have to wake up, and the climate is in an emergency status.
Some critics would say, look, that type of action is maybe a hindrance. It doesn't help the cause, it just makes people angry. I mean, how do you respond to people that have that argument with you?
If you are irritating people, that's fine with me, because when you irritate people, then something is happening. There's not going to be a transformation with people when they are comfortable, so we have to be very annoying.
Well, as the world meets in Dubai for COP28, many of the protesters here say they are simply not confident that there will be positive outcomes from that meeting for the climate change cause. They are instead saying it is the power of people and not politicians that will solve the climate crisis.
But whether groups like these are bringing people with them remains up for debate. A recent poll revealing that the vast majority of Germans believe that last generation's actions go too far.
The polls say we have 4 out of 5 Germans who say they don't like these kind of protests. On the other hand, if you ask them whether they think it's legitimate to engage in these kind of protests when you connect it to the climate crisis and to the inactiveness of the government, half of Germans would say, yeah, it's legitimate. Everyone in our society needs to ask themselves the question, what am I doing right now? Am I just a bystander, or do I take action?
Despite pushback, groups like these say they're not going anywhere, and they continue to attract new members from a cross-section of society. Doctors, scientists, even religious groups. They all say they're fighting for the next generation. And they hope that as gas-guzzling countries gather in the Gulf, they will all agree to sing from the same song sheet when it comes to making the tough calls on cutting emissions. Trent Murray for DD India, Berlin.
All right, and DD correspondent Vinod Kumar joins me on this from Dubai. Vinod, COP28, one of the major objectives of this is to gather a global consensus and address the climate catastrophe. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also went there. Could you provide highlights from Prime Minister Modi's visit to Dubai during COP28?
Hi, Siddharth. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had only a brief 21-hour stay here in Dubai. During these 21 hours, the activities were jam-packed with 4 distinct sessions in the World Climate Action Summit and 2 events which is co-hosted by India and Sweden and India and UAE. Prime Minister in his address in the World Climate Action Summit voiced the concerns of the Global South and reiterated the urgency in making means for implementation, particularly in climate finance, to make available for the developing countries technology which is needed in adaptation and mitigation. He also referred to the agreements such as the Green Climate Pact, which was signed in the G20. He highlighted the necessity that by the year 2030, we would be needing several trillions of dollars in mitigation and adaptation. He expressed the need for finance that is at the same time available, accessible, and affordable. He also exhorted the multinational development banks to give funds not only for developmental needs but also for climate needs.
Okay.
He reiterated the positions on India's positions on new collective quantified goal on climate finance, the replenishment of the Green Climate Fund and the Adaptation Fund. he also exhorted that the developed countries should try to be carbon neutral and reduce their carbon footprint by 2050. He also gave a list of India's achievements in the nationally determined climate goals, as well as how India is planning to be carbon neutral by the year 2021. The main highlight of PM Modi's visit here in the UAE was the launch of Green Credit Initiative.
Okay.
As we know that last month, the Minister of Environment and Climate Change has launched this Green Credit Initiative in India, which was allocated in our budget too. So India and UAE had co-hosted this big launch here in the UAE, and Modi, our Prime Minister, made a clarion call of Pragriti Rakshitaha. Those who protect the environment will be protected by them. And he gave philosophy of the Green Climate Initiative, how the carbon credit scheme was going in a pure commercial way, how we can take back in a more holistic action by introducing this green climate finance. Apart from that, he also attended the lead IT program with Sweden, as you mentioned in the Siddharth.
All right. Vinod, you just talked about the Green Credits Initiative. Could you just update us about the key proposals or some more initiatives put forth by Prime Minister Modi at COP28?
See, the major, the most important proposal that Prime Minister had put forth here in UAE was the Green Credit Initiative. This is a program aimed at reshaping global environmental policies. Prime Minister also launched the official portal of the Green Credit Initiative at COP28. He highlighted the limitations of the current carbon credit system influenced by commercial interest and lacking a sense of social responsibility. And this Green Credit portal will have a repository of knowledge of how the small events or the minor events that we do in creating a greener environment. This Green Credit Initiative comprises of 8 different efforts. One of them is mangrove conservation, tree plantation, sustainable building material management, sustainable water conservation principles. Like that 8 different schemes are there. This Green Credit portal will have a repository of how these 8 actionable points are coming together, and it will be available for the world for free to refer, so that their national governments can implement these policies from our portal. That was one of the main key takeaways for the world governments from our Green Credit Initiative.
All right.
And Lead IT Initiative, and the Lead IT Initiative, as we have already mentioned, it was launched in the year 2019. This the partner of India for this Lead IT event is Sweden. So the main idea of the Lead IT event is leadership in industry transition. As we know that heavy industries like steel, like automotive industries are generating a lot of carbon.
Indeed,
and they are
Vinod
polluting the
Kumar.
nature. So,
All right, we are a little short of time. Thank you so much for joining in. Well, the spire of Paris's Notre Dame Cathedral has been reinstalled, a key part of the reconstruction process. The cathedral was badly damaged in a major fire in 2019, and during that blaze, the spire collapsed through the fallen roof of the building. DD India's Ross Cullen reports from Paris.
The fire in April 2019 was devastating. The roof of the cathedral going up in flames and burning for hours as the city and the world watched, fearing if one of France's most famous monuments would be completely destroyed. The blaze broke out in the early evening and caused extensive damage throughout the medieval Catholic cathedral, though the fire service did manage to save the 2 huge bell towers. Later that same evening, the president addressed the nation, pledging to rebuild the cathedral in just 5 years. Now, despite the new spire still being encased in scaffolding, it's some 96 metres high and made of oak, the authority overseeing the rebuilding process does say the spire will be visible before Christmas. Now, the new spire is identical to the old one, which was designed by 19th century architect Viollet-le-Duc. You can also see behind me lots of cranes, and there is a lot of reconstruction work still to be done, including rebuilding the nave inside the cathedral. And it's only after that is finished that the reconstruction work of the roof can begin. Notre Dame de Paris, or Our Lady of Paris in English, was founded more than 850 years ago and is seen as a symbol of the country. In August, the President, Emmanuel Macron, said that the cathedral would fully reopen on December the 8th next year. In Paris, Ross Cullen reporting for DD India.
Well, still to come on DD India News Hour. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says that Israel-Hamas truce ended because Hamas backtracked on its commitments. Stay tuned to know more. Top defense officials from the United States, United Kingdom and Australia hold a joint press briefing. What's in it? We'll tell you.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts. We demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
Operation Zindagi has now become a kind of a copybook example of how to manage a disaster operation in our country.
In the next 1 week to 2 weeks, we'll have all the inputs coming in. Then there will be a meeting of this. There'll be an analysis and a full synthesization of all the things which have happened. And then we will draw out the lessons, publicize them, and look for guidelines for the future.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. India has received the maximum votes among the candidates in the category of 10 states with the largest interest in the international seaborne trade at the 2024-25 International Maritime Organization Council elections held in London on Friday. India's High Commission in London wrote on X, grateful to partners for reposing strong faith again in India. Council in the category of states with the largest interest in international seaborne trade with the top tally of 157 votes. India's Chief of Defence Staff General Anil Chauhan, Chief of Army Staff General Manoj Pandey, Chief of Naval Staff Admiral R. Hari Kumar and Chief of Air Staff Air Chief Marshal V.R. Chaudhary laid wreath at the National War Memorial during a homage ceremony ahead of Navy Day. India's Navy Day, celebrated on 4th of December every year in India, to acknowledge the role of Indian Navy and commemorate its achievements in Operation Trident during the Indo-Pakistani War of 1971. The Indian Space Research Organisation has achieved another milestone as it activated second instrument on Indian solar spacecraft Aditya L1. Sharing an update on the mission on Saturday, the Indian Space Agency said that Aspects payload on board India's Aditya L1 satellite has commenced its operations and started performing normally. The sample histogram image was shared by Indian Space Research Organisation, illustrating the energy variations in proton and alpha particle counts captured by SWIFT of 2 days in November 2023. Aditya L1, India's first dedicated solar mission, was launched into space on September 2nd from the Satish Dhawan Space Station in India's Sriharikota. And India's Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar on Saturday delivered Dr. Rajendra Prasad Memorial Lecture at the Rang Bhavan Auditorium in the premises of All India Radio in New Delhi. VP Dhankar said a decade ago the Indian economy was counted among the fragile 5, but today it has become the 5th largest economy.
एक दशक पहले भारत की अर्थव्यवस्था अत्यंत चिंताजनक अवस्था में थी। भारत को दुनिया के फ्रेजाइल 5 देशों में माना जाता था। दुनिया की अर्थव्यवस्था पर भारत, जहां विश्व की 1/6 आबादी रहती है, वो दुनिया पर एक बोझ था। दुनिया के देश चिंतित थे कि भारत फ्रेजाइल 5 से कैसे ऊपर आए। ये मात्र एक दशक पहले की बात है और आज का नतीजा ये है कि हमने यूके को और फ्रांस को पीछे छोड़कर 2022 में एक महारत हासिल किया और भारत दुनिया की 5वीं बड़ी महाशक्ति बना।
India's Parliamentary Affairs Minister Prasar Joshi held an all-party meeting of floor leaders in both the lower house and upper house of the parliament on Saturday. The meeting, which was attended by prominent BJP leaders and top ministers, including India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, aims to finalise the legislative business to be transacted in the upcoming winter session of Parliament that begins on 4th of December and will extend up to 22nd of December. The government has outlined 18 bills for consideration during this session. The report of the Ethics Committee on the cash for query allegations against Trinamool Congress MP Mahua Moitra will also be tabled in Lok Sabha on the first day of winter session. And India's Minister of State Rajiv Chandrasekhar inaugurated the mega conference of CA students in Kozhikode on Saturday. Minister Chandrasekhar hailed India's digital economy and said that it is growing 2.5 times faster than the regular GDP.
In the area of expertise, let me tell you on digital economy, 2014 it was 4.5% of GDP. Now it is 11% of GDP, and by 2026 it will be 20% of GDP. You have unlimited opportunities to succeed and prosper.
And let's take a look at other stories making news. Indian Prime Minister's initiative of Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra continues further in India's Fatehpur district. Various information were presented to the villagers about the schemes run by government. Villagers and beneficiaries also watched and listened to video clips of public welfare schemes and the Prime Minister through LED vans. The aim is to make India a developed and self-reliant nation by the year 2047. A thick blanket of smog reduced visibility on Saturday morning as New Delhi residents struggled to continue weekend activities amid the heavy pollution. Roads and buildings were shrouded in smog as AQI hovered around 259. Meanwhile, the government has declared holiday for all schools, colleges in Puducherry, Karaikal and Yanam regions of the Union Territory on December 4 in view of the cyclone Michaung. While the Port Department has hoisted cyclone warning signal number 1 in view of the formation of the weather system in the Bay of Bengal. A fresh spell of snowfall blanketed the Badarwa area in Jammu and Kashmir's Doda district. With the tourist season approaching, snow clearance operations in Jammu and Kashmir are also going to be started on a large scale. South Korea says its first military spy satellite has been placed into orbit on Saturday following the successful SpaceX rocket launch. Seoul confirmed that the satellite's communication was established with ground control. South Korea has launched its first domestically developed spy satellite on Friday via a SpaceX Falcon 9. The launch was carried out from California's Vandenberg Space Force Base after North Korea successfully launched its own military reconnaissance satellite last month. The Elon Musk's company also put on a live stream of the mission. And North Korea has warned that it would consider any interference with its satellite operations a declaration of war after the US said it had capabilities to deny North Korean satellites space capabilities through multiple means. North Korea also said it would mobilize its war deterrence if any attack against its strategic assets were imminent. Pyongyang launched its first military spy satellite on November 21, which transmitted photos of military installations in the US mainland, thus escalating the tensions further between the two countries. And updates now in Israel-Hamas conflict. Multiple rockets were seen flying over an area near the Israeli-Gaza border as Israel resumed operations to neutralize the threat posed by Hamas after the end of truce between them. The White House signaled out Hamas, saying it had failed to produce a new list of hostages to release to enable an extension of the truce. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says we are determined to do everything we can to get everyone home and to get them reunited with their families.
We're determined to do everything we can to get everyone home, to get them reunited with their families.
including pursuing the process that had worked for 7 days. We had 7 days of a pause, 7 days of people coming home and being reunited with their families. So we're on that almost hour by hour. But meanwhile, we've also been very clear that we support Israel and its efforts to make sure that October 7th never happens again. We've also been very clear about the imperative of doing that in a way that puts a premium on protecting civilians and making sure that humanitarian assistance gets to those who need it.
Meanwhile, the Israeli troops identified the body of one hostage and confirmed the death of 4 others seized by Hamas after a temporary truce between the two came to an end. The chief military spokesperson, Rear Admiral Daniel Haggerty, said the families of the hostages had been informed of their deaths. And the top defense officials from the United States, United Kingdom and Australia hold a joint press briefing to provide an update on the Australia-United Kingdom-United States Security Partnership, AUKUS. During a briefing, US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said by implementing strong standards of technology protection, they are reducing barriers to sharing information and technology. The Australian Deputy Prime Minister and Defence Minister Richard Marles said the meeting was a critical moment in the development and sharing of advanced technologies. And India remains among the fastest growing major economy in the world. India's manufacturing sector continued its momentum and witnessed growth during November. Here's the report.
India's manufacturing sector continues to see expansion for 29th month in a row. The data by the rating agency SP Global Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index or PMI survey shows India's PMI climbed to 56 and rebounded from 8-month low of 55.5 in October. Any survey prints below 50 indicate contraction, but India continued the growth momentum. SP Global says India is expected to lead growth in the Asia-Pacific region. The credit rating agency predicts India's GDP to reach 6.4% for the fiscal year ending March 2024, up from its previous forecast of 6%. India has performed well than other major economies. China's manufacturing PMI rose to 50.7 in November from 49.5 in October. The other Asian countries which witnessed manufacturing growth in November include Philippines, Indonesia, Qatar, Singapore and South Korea. Meanwhile, countries like Japan, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Israel and Vietnam witnessed manufacturing contraction with below 50 PMI. In Europe, Greece and Ireland witnessed a manufacturing expansion in November, while countries like the UK, Spain, Netherlands, Italy, France and Germany all observed manufacturing contraction in November with PMI below 50. The SP Global's manufacturing PMI survey report comes a day after India's National Statistical Office released the country's GDP growth data. India is currently the world's 5th largest economy and is on the track to become the world's 3rd largest economy with a projected GDP of $7.3 trillion by 2030.
एक दशक पहले भारत की अर्थव्यवस्था अत्यंत चिंताजनक अवस्था में थी। भारत को दुनिया के फ्रेजाइल 5 देशों में माना जाता था। दुनिया की अर्थव्यवस्था पर भारत, जहां विश्व की 1/6 आबादी रहती है, वो दुनिया पर एक बोझ था। दुनिया के देश चिंतित थे कि भारत फ्रेजाइल 5 से कैसे ऊपर आए। ये मात्र 1 दशक पहले की बात है और आज का नतीजा ये है कि हमने यूके को और फ्रांस को पीछे छोड़कर 2022 में एक महारत हासिल किया और भारत दुनिया की 5वीं बड़ी महाशक्ति बना।
Official GDP data says India's economy recorded a 7.6% growth in the second quarter of the current financial year 2023-24.
The fact that the economy has grown at 7.2% last year and at 7.7% in the first half of this year is telling in itself. And if I look forward, with a 7.7% growth in the first half of the year, even with a 6.3% average in the second half of the year, India will grow at 7% this particular financial year. In general, I think because of the sui generis policy that India implemented, India had the self-confidence and the courage of conviction to chart its own path.
The rise in India's GDP growth can be attributed to increased government spending and strong performance in the manufacturing, mining and construction sectors. Abhishek Bose for DD India.
And joining me is Shishir Sinha. He's a senior economic journalist. Sir, first of all, thank you for your time. Now, how does India's consistently higher PMI compare to other nations, and what factors contribute to this trend?
See, normally India is known as a service-driven economy. But when we see the second quarter GDP number, which you mentioned in your report also, we saw that industry pushed the overall GDP growth. Now, what are the factors which are contributing into the manufacturing expansion? The one thing is the demand, consumption demand. Number two is the lower inflation. So if you see the 2-month inflation number for the month of September and October, of course, we saw 7% plus inflation few months back, but now it is around 4.5, 4.6%. So lower cost has also helped to expand the manufacturing.
Okay.
So, and the third factor, which is very critical, is the policies. What kind of policies we have? So combination of these three, number one, demand, number two, lower cost, and number three, the policy. All three are helping to manufacturing to reach a new high, and which we have seen in the GDP number also, and also in the PMI manufacturing, which was released on the 1st of December. Now we are expecting that it will expand further, and that is good for the employment opportunities.
Okay. Sir, can you elaborate on the significance of PMI readings below 50, particularly for US, Germany and the Eurozone?
When we talk about PMI less than 50, that means there is a contraction in those economies. And when we are talking about contraction, if you can remember a few months back, we were talking about the mild recession in US and some kind of recession in European economies.
Correct.
So that is being reflected in the PMI. That means the manufacturing is not expanding there because of the lower demand. And that lower demand is also affecting our IT sector expansion, IT sector expenditure, because IT companies rely more on US and the Europe. Since there the manufacturing is not expanding, they are not placing the order for Indian IT services. And that is affecting Indian IT companies.
All right. In your analysis, what role does the global economic scenario play in shaping individual countries' PMI outcomes?
The most important thing is the global trade. I mean, at this moment, we are saying that the global trade is not growing at the pace which we were expecting. But at the same time, we also have to think about what kind of domestic demand we have. Considering the size of Indian economy, the domestic demand somehow helps in bridging a part of the gap which is created by lower export factor. So in many of the economies where the domestic demand is low and they have more reliance on the export thing, they are getting affected at a larger, at a bigger space. But when we talk about Indian economy, the domestic demand as well as the external demand, both are contributing. Since the domestic demand is high, that is contributing in the expansion of industrial activities in India.
All right, and very quickly, last question. What strategies might countries adopt to improve their PMI readings and stimulate economic growth in light of these numbers?
The only thing is that what kind of inflation we are going to have in those economies. Since we are seeing high inflation in US and some sort of inflation in UK as well and in the European nation. So once the inflation is down, then we will see more and more consumption, and when the consumption will grow, that will certainly help the industry to grow, and that will be reflected in the PMI.
All right, with this, thank you so much, sir, for joining in.
Thank you.
And still to come on DD India News Hour, we will tell you more about how in Venezuela, waste is being turned into useful objects. Munich airport suspends flights amid heavy snowfall. Venezuelans take to streets to show support for Sunday's referendum over its rights to the region around Essequibo River.
we are taking up India's role and leadership in multilateral climate negotiations. How India has performed in climate talks over the years, what are the major pressing issues from India's point of view and from that of the global south, and how are climate negotiations progressing, and do they hold out hope for humanity?
I think there's a growing realization that there is scope for India to have competitive advantage by being an early mover in technologies like battery, technologies like hydrogen. We see the solar potential in India. And so we are doing what a responsible power should do, which is something that promotes the global good while also promoting the national good.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj, and let's have a look at the headlines once again. India's Purchasing Managers Index for manufacturing rises to 56 in November, up from 55.5 in October. Number indicates robust growth in businesses. North Korea warns US that it would consider any interference with its satellite operations a declaration of war. And in sports, Vaishali Rameshbabu becomes India's 84th grandmaster. She's the third Indian woman to achieve the grandmaster title. In Venezuela, only 5% of the garbage thrown away is recycled, according to unofficial estimates. A local non-profit is encouraging youngsters to learn the benefits of recycling by teaching them how to turn waste into useful objects. DN India's Latin American correspondent Mary Trini Mena reports from Caracas.
Today's lesson is focused on 3 words: use, reuse, and recycling. These students at the Petare slum in Venezuela's capital are learning how to transform discarded materials into something functional.
It was explained to me here that we can make chairs, walls, and other useful things to help low-income people.
In a couple of minutes, used plastic bottles become eco-friendly benches, made using eco-blocks, which are plastic bottles densely packed to create a reusable building block. The recycling club is called Recyclers. It's an extracurricular activity that is changing the mindset of those who participate.
We generally say it's garbage, but it's not. It's material that we can recycle and we can obtain something productive.
Environmentalists say it's crucial to raise awareness from a young age, especially in a country like Venezuela, where it is not mandatory to separate solids, plastic, or glass waste at home. Since 2020, the Recyclers Club is bringing environmental education to Venezuelan schools, but also offering a communal waste collection center open for neighbors across the city. And they welcome plastic type 2 and 5, which are commonly used as food containers and plastic bottles, but also cardboard and glass. So far, they have managed to process 10 tons of waste in 2023 alone.
We are reducing the amount of waste that ends up in landfills, generating pollution and putting our health at risk. And secondly, we're helping people to get a new lifestyle.
The club is causing an eco-friendly chain reaction within the community, with neighbors coming to the recycling center, bringing bottles and bags they collected at home.
We need to teach, since they are little, how to use, reuse, and recycle properly, because those children go home and teach their parents too.
And the next generation of Venezuelans is already paying attention to the lesson. Mary Trini Mena in Caracas, reporting for DD India.
And a 5.6 magnitude earthquake jolted Dhaka and adjoining areas in Bangladesh on Saturday morning. The tremors were felt in Dhaka, Chattogram and some other parts of Bangladesh as well. The earthquake lasted for a few seconds, according to the Bangladesh Meteorological Department. A quake had a depth of 10 kilometers with the epicenter in Kumila district of Chattogram division, bordering the Indian state of Tripura. Tremors were also reported from Sylhet, Khulna and Rajshahi divisions. Fortunately, there have been no reports of loss to life or property from any part of Bangladesh so far. All right, and Navsalang Parmar, DD India correspondent from Dhaka, joins us with more details. Navsalang, what's your assessment of where you are standing right now and how's the situation?
Actually, around 9:35 morning local time, the earthquake of magnitude 5.6 on the Richter scale jolted the Dhaka and nearby areas in Bangladesh. The epicenter of this earthquake is around 100 kilometers away in southeast direction from Dhaka, Komila division, Komila district of Chattogram division, and it is very close to Indian border with the state of Tripura. And so far there are no report of loss of life or.
All right, Mr. Navsalang, can you hear me? All right, we're trying to re-establish a connection with our correspondent, Navsalang Parmar. Meanwhile, let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Heavy snowfall hit southern Germany on Friday night and continued on Saturday, causing major disruptions at Munich airport, the second busiest hub in the country. Long-distance trains and hundreds of flights in and out of Munich were cancelled due to the incessant snowfall. Earlier this week, efforts were made to save 24 pink dolphins stranded in a shallow Bolivian river, aiming to protect the species. The rescued dolphins, 14 female and 10 male, were relocated to the Rio Grande River on Saturday. Paving the way for Christmas cheer with traditional drinks and sausages, Germany's Nuremberg Christmas market opened for visitors on Friday. The market has 170 stalls selling crafts such as Christmas stars, wooden figurines and food. Venezuelans took to the streets on Friday to show their support for Sunday's referendum over its rights to the region around the Essequibo River. The referendum asked Venezuelans if they agree to incorporate the region and create a state. All right, we again go back to our correspondent Navsalang Parmar, who's joining us live from Dhaka. Navsalang, I was just asking you that what's the assessment of where you are standing right now and how is the situation? Also, what immediate steps are authorities taking in response to the earthquake?
Today I'm in Dhaka. It's a multi-storage building.
Okay.
Though the earthquake magnitude was 5.6, but there is no reports of any loss of life or properties, except that in one incident in Komila district, where the RMG worker, ready-made garment worker, rushed to exit the building after feeling the earthquake, and due to that there were a stampede and around 70 people injured, but no casualty reported due to the effect of this jolted tremors. And so far as the precaution, there are many high-rise buildings in the Dhaka and other metro cities of the Bangladesh, but the government have in short time they can't do anything to prevent any casualty or any material loss to the people or properties.
Well, definitely, and this is very fortunate, Navsalang, that there is no loss of life or property. Following this earthquake now. And are there any precautionary measures being advised to residents in affected regions following the earthquake?
Yes, in Bangladesh, it is very frequent that now and then we have a news of fire in congested areas of Dhaka, and it takes a heavy toll in Bangladesh. So fire safety and civil defense department is taking precaution to avoid such kind of situation during the earthquake or due to the short circuit while the earthquake happens, the pole or electricity wiring get short circuit, and due to that the fire kind of thing may happen. So for that from that point of view, government and the civil safety department and fire service department is taking the precautionary measures.
All right, thank you so much for tuning in. Well, still to come on DD India News Hour. Bangladesh's historic 150-run win over New Zealand. Indian siblings taking the chess world by storm. Vaishali Rameshbabu, India's 84th grandmaster.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts. We demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
Operation Zindagi has now become a kind of a copybook example of how to manage a disaster operation in our country.
In the next 1 week to 2 weeks, we'll have all the inputs coming in. Then there will be a meeting of this. There'll be an analysis and a full synthesization of all the things which have happened. And then we will draw out the lessons, publicize them, and look for guidelines for the future.
एक लंबे रक्तपात भरे युग का अंत धारा 370 के समाप्त होने से पहले।
For decades and decades, downtown area of Srinagar has always been symbolic of unrest, turbulence, turmoil, disturbances, and everything that has to do with the disruption.
पहले तो महीने में 20 दिन होता था हड़ताल, अब नहीं होती।
I'm right now standing in the middle of the Jama Masjid market, and this is how weekday here looks like.
दिन को होगा 1-2 करोड़
Turnover,
बिल्कुल कैश टर्नओवर।
बंद क्या बंद? ये दुकान हालात तो बिल्कुल ठीक है, बिल्कुल ठीक है, कुछ नहीं होता है।
कश्मीर तो बेनजीर है, हीरा है, दंगा फसाद तो नहीं है।
The making of the Naya Kashmir or New Kashmir.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Siddharth Bharadwaj, and time now for some sport. In cricket, India beat Australia by 20 runs in the 4th T20 International to seal victory in the 5-match series by 3-1 on Friday. India scored 174 off 9 wickets, while the Aussies could only manage to settle at 154 for 7 wickets. Bangladesh achieved a historic 150-run triumph over New Zealand in their inaugural test in Sylhet on Saturday. This is Bangladesh's second ever win over New Zealand and the first at home ground. Earlier, Bangladesh conceded a 7-run lead in the first innings. Stand-in skipper Najmul Hossain Shanto's century and 50s from Mushfiqur Rahim and Mehdi Hassan Miraz helped the Tigers set a daunting 332-run target. Bangladesh also took a 1-0 lead in the 2-test series with the win. The next test will be played in Dhaka starting on December 6th. Vaishali Rameshbabu is a chess grandmaster and has become India's 84th grandmaster. She is the third Indian woman to achieve the grandmaster title. Vaishali and Pragnananda are officially first ever brother-sister duo of grandmasters. Vaishali started with 2 consecutive wins in the EO Breguet Open in Spain. She crossed the 2,500 rating mark to become grandmaster. Vaishali scored her first grandmaster norm in the Extracon Open 2019. A second GM norm came by winning the 8th Fisher Memorial in 2022. She scored her third and final GM norm at Qatar Masters 2023. And DD India correspondent Anil Thomas joins us live for more. Anil, indeed an incredible achievement by R. Vaishali. Her accomplishments certainly contribute to the broader narrative of women's representation and success in the world of chess.
Well, good evening, Siddharth. That's exactly what's happened. 84th chess grandmaster for India, the third woman chess grandmaster. Remember, women chess grandmasters all together in the world are just 41, and she's the second now in the top 11. If you've got Koneru Humphrey, who's world number 3, now she coming in and joining in, Vaishali coming in and joining at number 11. She has every potential of reaching into the top 10 very soon. But the career graph that she has shown, especially moving from an IM to a GM, it's taken a bit of time. Her brother has beaten her in that race, but then to have both of them reach the candidates for next year is a great achievement for chess and a great endorsement for chess, not only in India but also across the world.
Well, certainly, Anil, and how significant it is for Vaishali and her brother Pragnananda to be recognized as the first ever sister and brother duo of grandmasters in chess.
Well, no better feeling than that, and what proud parents and proud coaches they are. Both brother and sister were encouraged to take up chess so that they would stay away from television, and their coach has had a great role, especially in the transformation that both have undergone. If you look at Vaishali's performance, Vaishali has there has been a blip for her, but then the way she's gone about picking up these 3 norms, it's been stupendous. There's been no error to the race that she had, especially when it comes to picking those 4.5 points that were left in the end that she's picked with 2 rounds that she's managed in this particular tournament. All in all, I would say a great performance for Vaishali. We both are looking. India is hoping that these 2 candidates, these 2 players who are there in the candidates, put up a good fight there. We have another Indian. We've seen Vishwanathan Anand be a world chess champion, lose that chess championship, world chess crown to Magnus Carlsen.
Correct.
Can they now do it? That's going to be a great competition. I think it's healthy competition when you have 2 candidates, brothers and sisters, fighting it out. It's going to be an interesting contest to see who makes the cut if they qualify for the big event for that world chess championship crown.
Well, definitely, it's a great achievement, Anil, for our Vaishali, and also a proud moment for India as well. How is the Indian chess community officials reacted to Vaishali's achievement as the 84th grandmaster, Anil?
Well, it's been a great effort, first of all, from Vaishali and her coaching staff, that the way they have gone about doing it. And I think the chess fraternity and every chess grandmaster, has been pretty vocal. If you look at the social media, you see every chess master has tweeted about this particular achievement that Vaishali has managed. And I think that's the big plus for a player like that, of that magnitude. Remember, if you look at the world chess grandmasters table in women's, there are just 41 chess grandmasters that you see, and to make that cut as a number 11, as soon as she gets the norm, she is in that top 15. That speaks volumes about the effort this young kid has put together. She's just 22, and I think a great journey lies ahead for her. But what one needs to understand is that it's a great moment to cherish for chess grandmasters. Vishwanathan Anand was quick to react when she managed to get that cut as a grandmaster, and every chess grandmaster has congratulated the brother-sister duo. And I think it holds, at least Indian chess looks to be in the passing of baton from one generation to next generation. This particular passing on clearly looks great and bright for Indian chess and for world chess in particular.
Indeed, like I said, it's a great moment and a proud moment for India as well. Thank you so much, Anil, for joining in.
Thank you.
All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.